Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome everyone back to the Maverick News channel. Another eventful Sunday as we see what's going on in the Middle East again. Well, no, I don't think it was quite 48 hours ago. I guess it was about 48 hours ago. Donald Trump declared total victory over Iran, saying Iran had agreed to never block the Strait of Hormuz again after declaring it open, except for the U.S. continuing to blockade the strait. Then, less than 24 hours later, that all fell apart. Iran effectively blocking the strait again because they never actually reopened it in the way that Trump said. They were always still directing ships into a narrow passage where they could charge a toll of about $2 million per vessel carrying oil. So all that fell apart. Now, 48 hours later, everything has escalated even beyond that, with shots now being fired and the U.S. boarding and taking custody of, confiscating an Iranian tanker. Now, here I am starting with that, and yet in Canada anyway, Trump is finally being upstaged by someone in this crazy movie that we watch every day, this crazy political movie that affects every one of our lives. Finally upstaged, though, tonight by Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who has released a new video saying that Canada's relationship with the United States has now become a vulnerability or maybe even a weakness. So we have all that and other stuff tonight too that we will bring you right here on the Maverick News channel right after this. Stay with me.
We are the Mavericks. Welcome to the Matrix, baby. Hope you like the view. We are the Mavericks. The world is watching. We are the Mavericks.
We are back. So let's get right into this tonight. Not with the guy in the White House, but the guy from Parliament Hill. We'll begin there tonight on this. It's a rare thing. It's a special occasion to not begin with a Donald Trump story. And yet it is a Donald Trump story because it's all related to that and Canada's changing relationship with the United States. Mark Carney releasing a new video that is really, so I'm getting it queued up here for you, blowing up the internet. Is certainly within Canada, where people on both sides of the political sphere in Canada are coming down hard line one way or the other on what Mark Carney is talking about. This is a shot across the bow, I think, of the United States heading into CUSMA trade talks. Let's cue it up and see what it's all about tonight. Carney saying what we've been hearing actually for a while. This, in many respects, well, I'll just play it, then you decide how new it is.
I know from experience that outside forces can sometimes seem overwhelming. My previous jobs at the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England was part of my duties to make regular public reports on what we were doing to manage the economy. And I remember during the financial crisis, when there was a real risk of panic, I developed a practice called forward guidance. It was designed to assure people that however difficult the situation seemed on any given day, that we were acting, and importantly, that we would continue to act with overwhelming force against our problems until they were solved. And that's the spirit I'm talking to you about today. Security can't be achieved by ignoring the obvious or downplaying the very real threats that we Canadians face. I promise you, I will never sugarcoat our challenges. Instead, I will talk with you directly and regularly about our plan, why we're doing what we're doing, what's working, what isn't, and what we're going to do next. So here's the current situation. The world, as I said earlier, is more dangerous and divided. The U.S. has fundamentally changed its approach to trade, raising its tariffs to levels last seen during the Great Depression. Many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses, weaknesses that we must correct. Workers in our industries most affected by U.S. tariffs, in autos, in steel, in lumber, are under threat. Businesses are holding back investments, restrained by the pall of uncertainty that's hanging over all of us. The U.S. has changed, and we must respond. Canada Strong is our plan to build Canada by Canadians, for Canadians. It will attract new investment so we can build more for ourselves, striking new partnerships abroad so we can sell into new markets. It's about taking back control of our security, our borders, and our future. There are some who say there's no need for a comprehensive plan. They believe we should wait it out in the hope that the United States will return to normal, that the good old days will come back. But hope isn't a plan, and nostalgia is not a strategy. And the days that young Canadians have known all their lives haven't been that good. Their lifetimes have been marked by a series of shocks and crises from abroad. The Iraq War, the global financial crisis, COVID, and now this. We have to take care of ourselves because we can't rely on one foreign partner. We can't control the disruption coming from our neighbors. We can't bet our future on the hope that it will suddenly stop. But we can control what happens here. We can build a stronger country that can withstand disruptions from abroad, that creates good jobs here at home, that's a leader in this new world with a vast network of reliable allies. That's the Canada Strong plan we're putting into action. Its goals are ambitious: to catalyze $1 trillion in investment, to create one Canadian economy out of 13, to build new trade and energy corridors, and to double the size of our clean energy capacity. Yes, that's ambitious. But in a crisis, fortune favors the bold. And there's comfort and confidence to be found in our country's history. After all, our ancestors built an improbable country in an inhospitable land where people were free to live their own lives. When I get into the office, I always look at this statue on my desk. It was given to me by Mike Myers just over a year ago. And this is General Isaac Brock. Brock was a hero who fought and gave his life for our forebears in the War of 1812. Before Canada even existed on paper, it had a shape in Brock's imagination. Faced with the threat of an American invasion, Brock built alliances across our land and inspired what would eventually become Canada. Others carried that effort forward. People like General de Salaberry, citizens like the Voltigeurs, who defended Châteauguay, and Indigenous heroes such as Chief Tecumseh, who united Indigenous nations across the Great Lakes to resist U.S. expansion and protect their lands. They battled together against a common foe, and by doing so, they made our life today possible. This statue of General Brock that I see every morning in the Prime Minister's office reminds me that when we're united as Canadians, we can withstand anything. Long before Confederation, our country was forged by Indigenous peoples, coureurs de bois and voyageurs, who mapped their continent and built vast trading networks from coast to coast to coast before the Americans had even left St. Louis. When the Second World War ended, Canada was ambitious, determined, and united in a mission to build big things. The St. Lawrence Seaway, Trans-Canada Highway, Expo 67, the CN Tower. We built new neighborhoods for hundreds of thousands of veterans and their families. And we opened new universities to launch their careers. We've begun to make big structural changes in the Canadian economy, and they're all designed to make us stronger at home and less reliant on the United States. On housing, we're taking a solution from the past, modernizing it, and creating a new housing agency to build affordable homes faster and transform the housing sector in the process. It's already up and running. And though we have a ways to go yet, housing affordability is already improving. For example, asking rents across Canada at their lowest level in nearly 3 years. On energy and infrastructure, we're removing roadblocks that have been getting in the way of big projects. On trade, to sell our goods and create new jobs, we're building relationships with other countries. We've signed 20 new deals on 4 continents in less than a year because Canada has what the world wants, from energy to education. We have the values to which most of the world aspires. And we're a reliable partner in a world that is anything but. We're defending Canadian sovereignty by investing in our security and creating an industry to support it. We've embarked on an ambitious new mission to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in the Canadian Armed Forces, with the single largest increase in defense investment in generations. As a result, recruitment to serve our country is already up 13%. This is the first time since the fall of the Berlin Wall that Canada will be spending what our allies expect and what we need for our defense. And we're just getting started. Our defense strategy will catalyze $500 billion in investment in Canada over the next decade. Our plan for Canada is gaining momentum, and it will work. But we are not going to fix all our problems tomorrow. And there will be setbacks along the way. The biggest payoffs will take time. So we know that Canadians need a boost today and a bridge to tomorrow. That's why, as we build a stronger economy, we're focused on lowering costs for Canadians. On day one in office, we canceled the consumer carbon tax. We cut taxes for 22 million middle-class Canadians, saving a 2-income family up to $840 this year. We've cut taxes for first-time homebuyers, saving them up to $50,000 on their first homes. We've reduced tolls for vehicles on the Confederation Bridge and cut fares by 50% on ferries in Atlantic Canada. We've launched something called automatic federal benefits. What it does is it will help 5.5 million low-income Canadians get the benefits that they're entitled to. We've made the National School Food Program permanent, feeding 400,000 children and saving their parents $800 a year on groceries. We're protecting the social programs that give every Canadian a fair chance to get ahead. Childcare, dental care, and pharmacare. We have everything we need here at home. Most of all, we have each other. Canadians are the hardest working, best educated people in the world. We care deeply about each other and about our country. And Canadians have responded to this crisis with that spirit. We're buying Canadian. We're investing Canadian. We're exploring Canadian. Canadians everywhere are all in. We all desire a better country. We've been a great neighbor, always willing to help our friends in their times of need. We've stood shoulder to shoulder with our allies in some of the toughest circumstances imaginable. In Kandahar, on Juno Beach, and at Vimy Ridge. We've been a beacon to the world with our values and our ability to always overcome incredible challenges. The situation today feels unique, but we've faced down threats like this before. And in the weeks and months ahead, I'm going to want to talk with you again. I know you have busy lives and you don't need daily interruptions from me. But the truth is, there's a lot going on in the world, and not all of it is good. And the stakes could not be higher. The way we're going to get through this is together. There's much forward guidance to be found in our shared history. We will get through this because of who we have always been. A country of tough, decent, caring people. People who grow stronger in adversity. It's our country. It's our future. We are taking back control to build Canada strong. It's already working. Let's keep going. Thank you for your time. I know it's precious.
The Prime Minister reaction has been swift and somewhat divided. Of course, here he is saying that Canada needs forward guidance We're trying to rally Canadians and doing what probably should have been done a long time ago to a greater degree. Teach Canadians some history. This stuff is taught in schools, but I would say not adequately. So people are largely out to lunch on a lot of that stuff. And from that, of course, you get national pride. So there he is trying to do that, but it's an uphill battle in that regard. And as I say, the reaction tonight, swift. Let's first of all take a look at what Pierre Poilievre is saying about this. Here's his post on X tonight. He says, "Here is Mark Carney's illusion. He wants Canadians to be anxious in order to divert attention from his multiple failures. With Mark Carney's Liberals, Canada has the worst food inflation as well as the highest household debt and household costs of all G7 countries. Let us also recall that Mark Carney has repealed no anti-development laws. He has approved no pipelines, and housing construction is declining. To top it all off, he has also doubled the deficit left by Justin Trudeau. Mark Carney has worsened these problems," Poilievre says, "created by the Liberals. As for the United States, Mark Carney's speech proposes a break with our main trading partner, a partner that buys 2/3 of our goods. This break is not a plan. Moreover, Mark Carney has concluded no new free trade agreement with any country. Meetings, photo ops, and non-binding memoranda of understanding are nothing but an illusion. Mark Carney's program aims to enrich a small group of well-connected liberal elites like him who have benefited from public money subsidies and tax havens to avoid bearing the same costs to you. If we want a more affordable, safer, and stronger country, we must make real changes right here at home. That is why the Conservatives will fight to end the Liberals' wasteful spending. We must eliminate corporate BS, consultants, foreign aid, and support for fake refugees. We must exploit our natural resources. We must unleash the know-how of our entrepreneurs. We must approve right now pipelines and major projects. We must encourage municipalities to build more housing. We must reduce taxes on gasoline for farmers, truckers, and steel workers. We must put an end to money creation and inflationary deficits that drive up the cost of living. This is the only way to truly be masters in our own house, so as to have real negotiating leverage on the international stage." And I believe Melissa Lantsman has also posted. Let's see if we can pull up her post. And here we go. In fact, I think she has a not just a post, but a video about this tonight. Here it is, Melissa Lantsman. Mark Carney says, "Fortune favors the bold." 1 year later, we're still waiting for the bold part. Turns out his plan was to give the same speech over and over again until reality has improved. Watch this and share if you think it's time for results. So here we go.
Prime Mark Carney says fortune favors the bold. So where's the bold? For a full year, this Prime Minister has had the power to approve major projects, to unlock Canada's energy, to speed up home building, and to get investment moving again. And what has he delivered? More speeches, more so-called guidance, more agreements to make agreements. Canadians don't need forward guidance. They live in the real world, not the Bank of Canada press conference world. A family filling up a grocery cart in Saskatoon doesn't need Mark Carney's economic philosophy. They need the bill at the checkout to stop going up. The home builder in Brampton doesn't need a fourth federal bureaucracy. They need permits approved, taxes lowered, and government obstacles cleared out of the way. An energy worker in Fort McMurray doesn't need another speech about Canada's potential. They need a government that stops blocking the projects that create jobs, grow paychecks, and make this country more energy independent. Now, the Prime Minister talks about attracting $1 trillion of new investment. Here's the number that he doesn't mention in any of this. After a decade of Liberal government, more than $1 trillion in net investment has already left Canada. That's the actual score. That's the thing he's not telling you. He talks about growth after his party spent years chasing away the people who actually build things. He talks about boldness after a year of doing next to nothing with the extraordinary powers that he was given by Parliament. He talks about the US in hopes that you will forget that he hasn't updated you on negotiations. And he wraps all of that in nostalgia for a strong, prosperous Canada, the same Canada his party spent 10 years quietly dismantling. PM Carney claims that his critics have no plan, and that's not true. Here's ours, and it's tied to action that will get us beyond just making videos. Cut taxes, scrap the block development, bring home investment, build homes, unleash oil, gas, and critical minerals, and give Canada real leverage on the world stage by becoming stronger at home. That's the plan, not a framework, and it's not a consultation process, and it's certainly not just forward guidance. Canada doesn't need a nanny state run out of Ottawa. Canada needs a government that trusts its workers, that backs its builders, that gets out of the way of progress that has hindered this country for more than a decade. That's how we bring investment home. That's how we build leverage abroad. And that's how we finally make life affordable again for every single Canadian. The Liberals have had their decade, and it's been another year. It's time for results.
It is so hard to know what to think about this because of the rhetoric on both sides, and of course they're spinning things on both sides. For instance, on the Poilievre side, I saw in that interview where he said that Carney is poorly educated on economics. That's a joke. No, he was serious, but I mean, it's not serious. Except he was serious. Politics. So, but the one statement that stuck with me was him blaming Mark Carney for advising the government to increase spending during the pandemic, saying the Conservatives warned it would lead to inflation, which is true. But on the other hand, it wasn't unsound economic advice at the time, as I also pointed out. You see, the only way the Conservative plan would not have plunged Canada into a recession or maybe a depression at the time, and by not increasing the money supply and basically, well, not basically, they provided social assistance right across the board to pretty much any Canadian that needed it at the time, and even then beyond that, because of the lockdown. So the only way to prevent a recession or a depression at the time would have been to not lock people down and to keep all businesses up and running, to just not do any of that. But of course, even the Conservatives at the time were calling for lockdowns as the government was under pressure from the public, which had been scared nearly to death by all the media hype surrounding everything from, around the world. Every government was doing it. So people were locked down. And I personally, even with the financial assistance that was flowing to people at the time, I was very concerned. I didn't know if our economy would be resilient enough to withstand the shock because so much was just shut down. Productivity went straight into the toilet. That means we didn't have goods and or services being produced to generate taxes, to rejuvenate the the supply chains that keep everything running, from consumer goods to food. everything was in jeopardy at the time. There were shortages of some things in supermarkets at the time, but somehow we got through it. And the only way you can do that is to inject enough liquidity into the system by increasing the money supply, essentially just giving money to people as a stopgap measure during the lockdowns in order to make it possible for them to continue to pay bills and buy groceries and keep the economy rolling with a limited amount of production out there. Had the money not been injected, people would have run out of money. People would have not been able to pay their rent. It's because there would have been no liquidity. So you increase the debt. And by taking those steps, of course, you end up with diminishing supplies of things. That's because you're now tapping into the reserve stockpiles of consumer goods and produced items. So you're consuming all of those things over time, pulling from stuff that's in warehouses, but not replenishing because you're not producing, right? And that includes your exports. It's a balance. So no choice. If you're going to lock people down and shut down factories, not produce things for a while, people won't be getting their full paychecks. You need to provide social assistance to stabilize the economy. And because you now have an increase in money supply and diminishing supply of consumer goods, more dollars chasing fewer goods, that's inflation. It reduces the value of the dollar, but there's liquidity there because everybody still has money to go out and to live and to keep things going. That resulted in inflation. Now, is that unsound economic policy? I would say no. Was it unsound healthcare and was it an unsound policy to lock people down? I would say yes. I was saying at the time we shouldn't be increasing spending and we shouldn't be locking people down. Not to that degree. We implement measures for safety reasons and do everything that you can, but every emergency planning, formalized emergency plan that I'd seen up to that date was just thrown into the waste bin. Everything that we would normally have done wasn't done at the time. So we went into these lockdowns and that threw everything into a tizzy. Now, it's easy to sit there and tear things down and criticize looking in the rearview mirror, but I'll tell you this, if the Conservatives had been in power, I'm pretty sure they would have increased spending in order to put money into the pockets of every Canadian as well. To what degree, we'll never know. Would they have for sure done that? We'll never know, but it's easy to make that criticism. I just picked up on that as part of Poilievre's rhetoric the other day when he said that Mark Carney was not well educated on economics. See, the solution to the whole damn thing is just they shouldn't have locked people down the way that they did. There were other things that could have been done, not lock people down, mask people up, and force people to get the thingy in the arm. So that for me is personally, and I'm editorializing, that's where I stand. Now, moving forward with all of this rhetoric, again, Carney trying to put forward a message, I think, of inspiration and trying to rally people behind a cause, which is to build the country, save the country in the face of, it is undeniable that we are under threat from the United States at this point. Social media influencers who are suggesting otherwise and trying to say that it's all Canada's fault are full of crap and highly suspect, in my view, if they're framing it that way. Like, what's their real motivation at that point? You can say that maybe the government isn't taking the right approach, but if you're saying that Donald Trump isn't to blame, isn't at the root of all of this turmoil, then there's something wrong. Because that's a clear, bald-faced lie right on its face. Period. All of this is because of what's coming out of the White House and the tariffs and this movement to reshape the entire planet, to carve it up into these spheres of influence. It's right out in the open now. Even a year ago, 2 years ago, certainly, this wasn't even on the radar. And as Trump was campaigning, he never talked about this, never mentioned it in any of his campaign speeches. And then he gets into office and kablamo, the whole world starts to get weird again. Coming back to what Carney just said, I think what I might need to do here in the next day or two is compile a list of some sort of facts to kind of get a proper perspective on this, right? I don't think that what Pierre Poilievre is saying is entirely wrong or even off target. Some of it, I think, is just going back to his old campaign style of just being Mr. Negative and trying to attack, which is okay to a point. But when you take it too far and start to lie about stuff, then you've got a bit of a problem, in my books anyway, for me. Now, would his economic plan work? Is it better? It depends on how much, I guess, political will is behind anything that they actually speak about, and how much of the conservative plan would actually be implemented if they were to come back into power. I think, as I said, I think it was last night even, Poilievre, he is under pressure. His job is on the line. There are people within the Conservative Party who I think would like to turf him and replace him with somebody fresh, because he's not winning. He's on the losing side. That last election was his to lose, and he lost it, because I think he had bad advice mostly, but we can get into all that as well. But the point is, at this point, just to try to get things on a track of facts, I think we'll have to compile like a list of what has Carney actually accomplished in the first year. Is what Pierre Poilievre saying actually true, saying that they really haven't accomplished anything, that it is all smoke and mirrors, an illusion, as he puts it? Is that the case? Don't know. I know that some of what Poilievre said is borderline true. Some of it I think false, pretty sure. And some of what Carney said, same thing. I think a little more truth in what Carney's talking about, and more inspiration in there. But the facts, if you really dig into them, you can find them, and they won't lie. So I'll do my best. I'll spend a bunch of time and dig into all of that, and just put together a chart or something that I can verify, just to give us a barometer. And a big factor in everything right now, too, is oil prices, right? And yes, this is the thing right here. Gas prices. Liberal government announced, yeah, they're cutting the excise tax. Yeah, they did cut the carbon tax. Those are real things. They've done them. So it's not really true to say that they haven't done anything or accomplished anything or done anything to help people. And the carbon tax done well in advance of these developments with Iran. And now the excise tax cut, which will continue through the summer, will reduce gasoline prices as well. That doesn't actually come into effect until the 1st, I believe, of next month. Is it next month? Yeah. It's a couple more weeks. Oil prices tonight, with all of the disruptions continuing in the Middle East, still hovering around $90 a barrel. They did come down the other day about 10%. They went up just a little bit. WTI crude today up 7.39%. Gasoline up 4%. Brent crude up 6%. At $95 a barrel. You know, that's up about $5, almost $6, compared to where it was, I think, yesterday. So that's not good, because that's inflationary in itself. And oil industry analysts that I've been monitoring over the last couple of days are saying even after this conflict in Iran is resolved, even if it were to be resolved tonight, it could be months or maybe even years before gasoline prices come back down to where they were before this U.S. what do you want to call it? An excursion, an intervention, or a war? You take your pick. Any way you slice it, none of this was going on with oil prices, gas prices, a destabilized Middle East until Trump launched this initiative. How many different words can you come up with to describe what is going on over there? The on-again, off-again Iran war excursion, distraction, whatever. So here we are, 48 hours after Trump declaring total victory over Iran, and they have they've gone after an Iranian ship, a huge Iranian ship, and because the U.S. has their blockade on the blockade, and they blew a hole in the engineering room of this ship, and they now have taken possession of it. Here's video released by CENTCOM.
Motor Vessel Tosca, vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
Okay, we gave the flare. Now we're getting anything. Be ready.
Motor Vessel Tosca.
Yes. So things escalating. This is obviously not over. Troop buildup, I think there's a lot of people saying that very likely what we're looking at here is some sort of ground operation at some point. Clearly, Trump was not telling the truth about this thing being over and Iran going to be working with the United States to clear mines and to assist the United States in collecting all of the uranium dust, working with the United States. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, seriously, is that really going to happen? Obviously not. But he said all of that. Why? Why would he say all of that if it's just not happening? Well, a lot of people will just believe it. And it is interesting to sit here and watch it play out like a movie. If you are really, really paying attention, which most people don't, you can see that Trump is not really telling the truth. The Iranians, they're probably not telling the truth either. But you can see, like, some things are just demonstrably true. You can go online and find information about ships. Are they actually going through the Strait of Hormuz? Did it actually open? Trump said that it opened. It didn't really open. And here we are, like I said, 48 hours after him saying Iran has promised to never close the Strait of Hormuz ever again. Well, they've closed it again. It never actually truly opened. Now it's just shut right down again. No ships going through there now. From what, all the information, independent, just monitoring sites, not political, just what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, counting vessels based on what their locators indicate. Have they gone through? Nope, they're still sitting there. Let's pick this up here. This is what the Iranians are broadcasting in the Strait to all vessels in the area.
In Persian Gulf and Oman Sea. This is Iranian Sepa Navy calling you on channel 16. Strait of Hormuz is still closed. We will open it by the order of our leader, Imam Khamenei, not by the tweets of some idiots. If you want to pass through the strait, you must ask permission from Iranian Sepah Navy. All vessels that have a connection with our enemies will be targeted if they try to pass the Strait of Hormuz out. In Persian Gulf and Oman Sea, this is Iranian Sepah Navy calling you on channel 16.
So, just to be, okay, so I'm editorializing here a little bit again. I don't like what Trump has done. I don't like the way he has done it. I don't like that he's taken the United States into this all alone, that he hasn't done it with a coalition. He didn't get congressional approval to do any of this. He says it's not really a war. I have personal views on why he's saying that. But it clearly is, if it wasn't a war, it certainly is now. Now we're in it. There's nothing that we can do about it. I don't like the way that he has done it. On the other hand, I also see clear-eyed that Iran is not a good actor. None of this would be happening to them, I don't think. Maybe. It wouldn't be happening to them if they had just been a more peaceful nation, if they were not so aggressive toward the United States, Israel, terrorism. Now, you can get into the nitty-gritty and all the politics and back and forth, but we've had an ongoing problem in the Middle East because of Iran, and a lot of the trouble over there. Most of it seems to flow right from them. So I don't really have any sympathy for a regime that acts the way that it acts, but at the same time, I'm saddened to see that Trump has done it this way, because it tarnishes the reputation, the image of the United States, and it erodes trust in the U.S. as well. It has driven that wedge between the United States and NATO countries, traditional U.S. allies, in even deeper. A wedge that has been driven in originally by Trump himself. So it amplifies all of that. Even tonight, NATO countries still not coming in to assist. They have been putting together a coalition to come in and to, escort vessels through and I guess take actions in there once everything stabilizes and there is a peace deal reached of some kind. But so they'll assist at that point as in peacekeeping operations, but not right now. Trump's in there all alone. Says he doesn't need anybody, but he wants people to come and help our nation states, right? So it is a mess. It really is a mess. He's a master at media manipulation and mind manipulation, because the way he has done this is wrong on pretty much every level, and yet the way that he spins it through his rhetoric, he somehow manages to take his indiscretions, his unethical behavior, and flip it around and transfer the blame to the Iranians in the minds of people. In the minds of people. Do they have a nuclear weapon? I kind of don't know. I mean, they obviously don't have a nuclear weapon. That's the wrong thing to say. Were they like 2 weeks away from it? Doubtful. I really doubt that. That's what Trump said, but he's all over the map on this stuff, And that comment from J.D. Vance, too, it just talking about what happens if they develop a nuclear vest. Well, I don't know, man. What happens if Sally down at the end of the street goes nuts and develops a nuclear vest that doesn't exist, and you'd need very advanced specialized technology, which nobody has right now, in order to even produce something like that on that size that would be a nuclear. It doesn't exist. But people don't know. People are not educated enough to know one way or the other. Let's see what MSM is doing over on NBC. with this.
Announcing the U.S. seized and boarded an Iranian cargo ship today. Posting on social media, the 900-foot Tuska tried to evade the U.S. blockade. The president said the USS Spruance warned the tanker, then blew a hole in the engine room. Writing, "We have full custody of the ship and are seeing what's on board. No confirmation from Iranian officials." But this comes just days before the current ceasefire agreement expires. And tonight, the White House tells NBC News U.S. negotiators are headed back to Pakistan tomorrow. The team will include Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and Vice President J.D. Vance, according to two senior administration officials, despite President Trump telling other news outlets earlier that the VP was not traveling. But at this hour, it appears Iran hasn't agreed to show up. State News reporting tonight that any confirmation of a second round of negotiations in Islamabad is not true. On Sunday, the Strait of Hormuz remained largely closed after Iran imposed its own restrictions on the vital waterway, allegedly opening fire on two Indian flagships yesterday. In response to that, President Trump called Iran's actions a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. Meanwhile, a separate tenuous ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon is holding. NBC's Yasmin Vesuvian is in Beirut.
Here in Lebanon, it is day 3 of the ceasefire, which is holding for now. Many exhausted by this war, hoping for the best, but expecting the worst.
But ahead of the possible negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, President Trump once again threatened to wipe out civilian infrastructure if the two sides didn't strike a deal. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, backed up the president on Meet the Press.
We have a long history of taking down bridges, power plants, and other infrastructure that is powering Iran's military, and they have a long history of conflating civilian and military assets.
Molly is joining us now from Tel Aviv. And Molly, on that intercepted Iranian ship, it had been sanctioned by the U.S., right?
Yeah, Hallie, that's correct. And President Trump says it's because of previous illegal activity. But Hallie, these were the first U.S. shots fired of any kind since the ceasefire started. Hallie?
The new development.
So, hang on just a moment. Okay. Yeah, so let's take a look at that Truth Social post that they referenced just in passing in that NBC report. Here's the full thing. He says, Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. Many of them were aimed at a French ship and a freighter from the United Kingdom. That wasn't nice, was it? My representatives are going to Islamabad, Pakistan. They will be there tomorrow evening. I think this is actually the older one. For negotiations, Iran recently announced that they were closing the strait, which is strange because our blockade has already closed it. See, it's not strange. He knows this is, he's just kind of reframing reality. They're helping us without knowing, and they are the ones that lose with the closed passage, $500 million a day. So now he's trying to make the blockade seem like a good thing. The United States loses nothing. In fact, many ships are headed right now to the U.S., Texas, Louisiana, and Alaska. Yeah, this is the older one. No, this is the newer one. One of the newer ones, sorry. I can't tell anymore because he just keeps changing everything every couple of hours. The United States loses nothing. In fact, many ships are headed right now to the U.S., Texas, Louisiana, and Alaska to load up complements of the IRGC. Always wanting to be the tough guy. We're offering a very fair and reasonable deal. And I hope they take it, because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy, which we put on the thumbnail for tonight's broadcast. They'll come down fast. They'll come down easy. And if they don't take the deal, it will be my honor to do what has to be done, which should have been done to Iran by other presidents for the last 47 years. It's time for the Iran killing machine to end. President Donald J. Trump. I'm just going to go over and see if there's anything new since then. No. So that is the most recent post. post, period, about all of this. You know, the big winner in all this, Russia. Oh, it makes me wonder. I'm going over to RT. Here's what they're reporting. U.S. reverses pledge to not renew Russian oil waiver. Yeah, see, they were talking about, you remember how when all this started with the blockades? What did Trump do? Oh, he lifted all of the sanctions on those Russian oil tankers, right? Russia. Just, oh yeah, the sanctions off. So there it goes. And they said, well, we're going to put them back on. And just a couple of days ago, they said they were going to put them back on it. But here we are, not hearing about it in the media at all over in the United States, but over in Russia, they're kind of laughing at Trump, saying the U.S. has renewed a sanctions exemption allowing Russian crude and petroleum products already loaded onto tankers to be delivered and sold freely, the U.S. Treasury Department has announced. The move came despite a pledge by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made 2 days prior that the waiver would not be extended. We're not extending this waiver. Russia will be back under sanctions. Well, on Friday, the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control issued a general license covering Russian oil loaded onto vessels as of April 17th and authorizing transactions through May 16th. The waiver replaces an earlier 30-day order which took effect on March 19th and extends to services including safe docking, crew safety, emergency repairs, and insurance even for previously sanctioned vessels. This combination of factors, the lifting of the sanctions, the increase in world oil prices, means that gabillions, I don't even know how much money, is being pumped back into Russian accounts. Russia making out like a devil here. The goal, it says, of the initial waiver was to contain the spike in oil prices caused by the Iran war and the de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The move came despite Bessent telling reporters on Wednesday that waivers on Russian and Iranian oil would not be extended. But they did. They just extended it. You're just not hearing about it. But that is true. Why wouldn't you hear about it? Why wouldn't? Well, you watch here long enough, you'll start to put two and two together and start connecting dots. Yes, you will. We kind of explain things. And a lot of people, I think, are beginning to wake up to what Trump is really up to. He is corrupt. You do understand this, right? This is one of the reasons I've become so critical of what he is doing. He's enriching himself and his friends and his family using a variety of schemes, including schemes that use cryptocurrency as pump and dump schemes to inject billions of dollars into the family bank accounts, manipulating markets by just opening his mouth. People are profiting from this war simply because they make markets go up and down. As a result of all of that, some people waking up, realizing that all of this is going on. And then, of course, the war itself, which, you can speculate on why the war is happening. I'll comment more on that in a moment, I think. But a lot of people, it's not popular. None of this is popular, and they're paying more at the pumps. And I think it's costing Trump a lot because his approval ratings tanking. Here's NBC again.
Always remind people, I think, decision desk poll, this one's a little bit different than polls I think people are used to. This is all adults casting a very wide net here. But I think the picture that emerges is still very clear. Donald Trump standing with the public here now, an approval rating in our poll here of just 37%. The last time this poll reported out a couple months ago, it was 39%. The big change from then to now, of course, is the launch of the war in Iran and everything that's continued to happen there. So down to 37% approval for Trump. And mention Iran, and look at this. A big driver of that clearly is how that war is going. Only a third of adults approve of Trump's handling of the war in Iran. There's a quarter, I should say, 1/4 of Republicans say they disapprove. Those who call themselves Republicans, that might be something to keep an eye on. This continues to be a problem for the president. Inflation, the cost of living. This has been the story of his second term. Only a third approving of how he's handling that. This area, though, if you want to say there's a bright spot in this poll for Trump, it's right here. Now, look, it's still majority disapprove on border and immigration, but these marks are higher than in other areas, and this is an improvement for Trump from earlier this year. Remember the incident in Minnesota, all of the attention on ICE back then. This number actually has come up a bit on border for Trump. Talk about Iran, what people think should happen from here, and this right here. Take no further action. That's by far the most common choice you're going to hear. 61% say that, and again, that includes a third of Republicans.
Well, and it's numbers like these, Steve, that are applying pressure to President Trump to bring this war to an end.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear what you're seeing here in terms of that number. That's internationally what folks are thinking of. We mentioned the cost of living here. We say, what is driving, what matters most to you when it comes to economic matters? And again, no surprise here, but it's inflation, it's the cost of health care, the clear majority, one of those two things right there. Also, though, now more recently, the cost of gasoline, what they're paying at the pump here. Add these two numbers together, very somewhat. 2/3, 65% say that the cost of gasoline is a serious, in some way, problem for them and for their families right now. And then I think there's an interesting question here, a broad question. Again, this connects with the Middle East. This connects with politics in D.C. this week. This ongoing question here, we asked the basic one. Who do you sympathize more with, the Israelis or the Palestinians? The country is dead even, 50-50.
Well, this is fascinating, but historically speaking, Steve, support for Israel has actually been higher.
Yeah, this is now much more even than it used to be, and there are two particular drivers of this. I think it's very interesting. One of them is partisan. Republicans, overwhelmingly on the Israeli side. Democrats, this is the big shift. Now, overwhelmingly 3-1 on the Palestinian side. And then the second piece of it, it's generational. It's age. Gen Z, that rising generation. Look at this. Across party there, 3/4 of Gen Z say they sympathize more with the Palestinians than the Israelis. That's a massive sea change.
It certainly is. It'll be fascinating to see how that plays out in the midterm. Steve Kornacki, thank you so much.
Those numbers, to me, have the ring of truth to them. I think that based on everything I'm seeing in the media, talking to people, those look like pretty accurate poll numbers, including the stuff with the Gen Zs and the stuff about the division on opinion with the Palestine, Israel. The war in Iran, clearly not popular. And I think Trump was hoping that it might be. But even in the beginning of this thing, he didn't get a bump up in his approval rating. Normally when the United States goes to war, especially against an opponent like Iran, which has killed a lot of Americans, the president would get a bump. But again, I think he kind of miscalculated. He did this because of the way he has done it. He didn't rally support. He didn't go to the people, state his case for doing what he's doing, and tell them this is something that has to be done right now. This is why, and we're going to do it. If he had done that, I think he would have had a bump. He could have rationalized this for people psychologically heading into it, but he didn't. Now, the thing is, now that he's in and he's doing all of these things, you can see how his statements, just like the markets, he's making people's emotions and their perception of it distort or shift almost instantly. Because if you go to that Turning Point USA rally a couple of nights ago, in Arizona, he had just announced, in fact, he announced it there, that Iran had given in to all the U.S. demands, total victory, the Strait of Hormuz open, the Iranians are going to work with us, clear all the mines, help us gather up all the uranium dust, we're going to bring it all back to the United States. It was quite a tale. Had it been true, he'd be popular, probably for from now until the end of history. And the people stood up and they cheered and they thought that it was a victory party as much as a rally, a Trump rally at the Turning Point USA. But it didn't take till the middle of the night that night. And everything fell apart and it became just blatantly obvious that Trump was not just exaggerating, he was just outright lying. Why? Well, some people think it might be because he's trying to distract from something.
They both look clean, but the guest list redacted, if you know what I mean. No files exist, just a little twist, nothing to see here. Move along, folks, the truth's in the vault with the dirty jokes. No names released, justice deceased to protect the victims. And Donald Trump, shh, don't say the name, you'll get dumped. They dance with the girls too young to vote, a private jet and a suicide note. One's in a grave, the other still tweets. The truth took a dive 6,000 feet. The cameras broke, that's not a joke. The guards were napping, the logs were gone, and everyone smiled like nothing's wrong. Nobody talks, just shadow walks. National security took the stage while justice quietly disengaged. We can't release the names to protect the victims. And also Donald Trump. Coincidence? Just dumb luck. Right? Another sealed file. That crocodile smile. We did our best, says the DOJ, while the truth just fades away. Another new spin. No one will win except the rich guys with gold ID cards and closets full of secrets behind steel bars. Just a little glitch, a billionaire's privilege. That's the sound of the case closed.
We're not. It ain't over till the you-know-what lady sings, as they used to say. Do you even know what I'm talking about when I say that? Or am I showing my age again? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? I'm going to look in the chat. That just kind of came out. Does anybody still say that? It ain't over till the fat lady sings. I don't know where that came from, man. I don't script these programs, you know. I don't script these things. It's my mind. Forewarned, maybe afterwarned. Dragon doesn't know. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Close. The Philadelphia Flyers, Kate Smith. She used to sing all the national anthems there. And I think that's where it came from. That's where I know it from anyway, because the Philadelphia Flyers, Stanley Cup, when I was a kid, Kate Smith always used to sing. It maybe comes from some other place prior to that, but people would always say, "It ain't over till the fat lady sings." That'd be Kate Smith, but I don't even know if that makes sense because she would normally sing the national anthem before the games. I don't know. That's just what I remember from it being. Somebody look it up for me. Where did that come from? I've said that all my life. You see, the point being, even if they're down, like his game, the seventh game or whatever, it's going into the seventh game. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. Kate Smith has to come out and sing. Doesn't make sense now that I think about it, but that's how I remember it. Okay. Somebody look it up for me, okay, please. now I'm like, now it's bothering me. Where did that saying come from? Baseball. I'll have to look it up right here. Okay, just a little trivia on the fly. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. Oh, Rick, you are so weird. Let's just check it out. Well, let's do a rock and roll, a rocker. Okay, let's do this. We'll ask Grok. See if he knows. Is it Grok a he or she? There's only one gender for AI. Okay? Starting to get a little off track here. Okay. Hey, Grok, are you ready to rock? Many question marks. And yes. Hell yeah, I'm ready to rock. Crank it to 11, baby. The amps are humming, the guitars are screaming, and I'm locked, loaded, and fully caffeinated. What are we destroying today? Let's make some noise. Well, my dude, I am curious about a little trivia thing about the fat lady. Are you ready for the big question of the day? Hell yeah, my dude, I'm strapped in, amps are melting, and I'm 1000% ready for the fat lady trivia. Drop that big question on me. Let's see if I know my opera legends, or if I'm about to get schooled. Hit me. All right, baby. I need to knows. Misspelled on purpose. I need to knows, where did the saying, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, come from? Lay it on me, my dude. Hell yeah, here's the lowdown on that classic saying, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. The real origin of the phrase is a relatively modern American colloquialism from the sports world in the 1970s. It means the game, for contest, election, whatever, isn't decided until it's completely finished. First known printed use March 10th, 1976 in the Dallas Morning News. Texas Tech sports info director Ralph Carpenter dropped it during a baseball tournament when the game was tied. Right, the opera ain't over till the fat lady sings. It blew up in popularity thanks to Dan Cook, a San Antonio sports writer and broadcaster. He used it in 1978 during the NBA playoffs, Spurs versus Washington Bullets, to say the series wasn't over, even though one team won a game. Washington coach Dick Mota loved it and helped spread it nationwide. Before that, people have fuzzy memories of similar Southern sayings like, church ain't out till the fat lady sings, or versions with the blues, but nothing solid before 76. Oh, Wasn't that a special year? Bicentennial. Coincidence or conspiracy? You decide. Why the fat lady? Well, it's a fun, stereotypical reference to opera. In many classic operas, especially Wagner's Ring Cycle, the show ends with a big, powerful soprano, often a larger woman in traditional productions, belting out a dramatic final aria. She sings the long, epic closing solo and boom curtain as the phrase is basically saying, "We're not done until the big finale hits. It ain't some ancient proverb, it's 20th century sports trash talk that went viral before viral was a thing." You feeling that one, my dude? Want me to dig into any other wild sayings or trivia? Lay it on me. I'm still revved up. Yeah. Actually, I still have a thirsty mind. Please, oh please, my dude, tell me, didn't that phrase get used extensively in the 70s during Philadelphia Flyers games? I'll go this way. See if you can decipher that. How do you spell that? Kate Smith enlighten me, my dude. Oh, I just remembered something else about Kate Smith. She was like their good luck charm. So if she sang, there was no way they were going to lose. I remember that. Yeah, here it goes here. Come on, tell me yes. Hell yeah, my dude. I'm still safe. I wasn't just making shit up in my head. Oh, hell yeah, dude, my dude. You're on to something big here. Let's crank this trivia up to full volume. Amplifiers are a humming. Okay, the Kate Smith and Philadelphia Flyers connection. Yes, there's a strong and famous link between the phrase and the 1970s Philadelphia Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies. It's one of the most popular stories tied to the saying, even if it's not the true origin. Starting in December 11, 1969, the Flyers began playing Kate Smith's recording of God Bless America. That's right, before home games instead of the usual national anthem. Now I'm remembering. Kate Smith, a big, powerful voiced singer, the classic fat lady image, became their good luck charm. The team went on insane winning streaks whenever her song was played. She even sang it live before Game 6 of the 1974 Stanley Cup Finals, and the Flyers won their first cup that night. They repeated as champs in 1975. Her record with the team was something ridiculous, like 85 wins, 22 losses, 4 ties, or better in games where she appeared. Flyers fans, now they do like the overtime thing, and then they go to shootouts. My dad doesn't like that. He doesn't like the shootouts. I think they're fun, but we'll agree to disagree. Flyers fans in the Philly sports scene went wild with superstition. The Spectrum Arena would erupt when that song hit. Because of this, a ton of people, especially in Philly and hockey circles, started associating the phrase, "It ain't over till the fat lady sings," directly with Kate Smith belting it out at Flyers games. But here's the important clarification, baby. She sang before the game to pump everyone up, not at the end. Yeah, see, that's what it was. So technically, some old-timers joke it should have been, "It ain't begun till the fat lady sings." See, that's why I'm so messed up today. That one thing turned my entire world upside down, and now I haven't been thinking straight since. The actual first printed use of the phrase was in 1976 basketball, Texas Tech versus Texas A&M. And it got super popular in 1978 thanks to sports writer Dan Cook and NBA. Well, how can that be? No, Grok. No. Now you're confusing me. Didn't you just say? She even sang it live before Game 6 in 1974 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But now you're telling me it is a goddamn conspiracy. Look at this. He's trying to misinformation me. The first printed use of the phrase was 1976. And let's go back up to the top. I'm going to have to challenge Grok on this. It's right here. First known printed use, March 10th, 1976. Dallas Morning News. So he's telling me that this thing didn't get popular until 1976 because of basketball. Now down here he said, oh yeah, it became popular after 76, blah, blah, blah. But then comes down here and acknowledges it's true that it was a big thing well before that, years before that. All the way back to 1969, and then really big in 1974 with the Philadelphia Flyers. Okay, let's see if we can. You remember that episode in Star Trek where Captain Kirk outsmarts the computer, gets it all confused, and fries its brain, thus saving humanity or some alien race or something? Let's see if we can do it to Grok. Wait a minute. Hold the presses, my dude. You just screwed up big time, baby. You just said that the phrase wasn't popular until its first printing in 1976 related to basketball. Yet you just acknowledged that I was right, referencing the Philadelphia Flyers and Kate Smith. And you referenced the years of those events, which clearly predate your report saying the beginning of this pop culture craziness began in 1976. So what gives, my dude? Am I actually smarter than you and better informed on sports history and opera? Good luck explaining yourself, you crazy computer. I got him now. Now he's confused. Hell yeah, my dude, you got me on the ropes, but I ain't tapping out yet. Let's clear this up straight, no BS. You're right that the Kate Smith Philadelphia Flyers phenomenon was exploding in the 1970s, starting in 1969, peaking with those Stanley Cups in 74, 75. That part is 100% fact, but here's the key distinction that fixes the screw up. I think he's making excuses for himself. The exact phrase, "it ain't over till the fat lady sings," or "the opera ain't over," first documented use, March 10, 1976, Ralph Carpenter, Texas Tech sports guy in basketball. The Flyers' Kate Smith stuff came before that printed record, so the cultural image of the big latest singing Kate was already out there making noise in Philly sports circles, but people were probably yelling stuff like, "It ain't begun till the fat lady sings," because she performed before games as a good luck ritual. The specific wording we all know today didn't hit print until 70. That's bullshit. That is complete crap. Then got mega boosted in 78 by Dan Cook. In baseball, during the NBA playoffs, once it was out, everyone retroactively tied it to Kate's. They did not. They retroactively tied it to Kate Smith and not true. Broad Street bullies because it fit perfectly. No, so what gives? No contradiction, my ass. The inspiration image Kate Smith predates the exact. You are so full of crap. The Flyers helped birth the legend and spread the vibe like wildfire. The documented birth certificate. Oh, for crying out loud. Certificate of the saying itself is 1976. You're not smarter than me on this one, baby, but you did catch a nuance I could have explained tighter last time. Respect. You're locked in your sports history. Not really. I'm not an expert in sports at all. We good now, or you still got more heat for me? Hit me with the next round. I'm loving this trivia throwdown. Oh, you're so... Grok. Come on. Admit when you are wrong, dude. I lived it. I was there. I watched it on TV. Everybody was talking about Kate Smith and the Flyers, using that phrase when they won the cup. I watched it. International stuff, my man. I watched it on CBC. I am a Canuckistanian. We watched hockey, the whole thing. It was practically a religion. What the hell? Come on, dude. Admit it. I gotcha. You need to update your memory banks. I'm going to have to go full Captain Kirk in a second. Gonna have to. All right, my dude, let's settle this like men. And then we're going to leave this, okay? Because I can't take it anymore. You were there. You watched the Broad Street Bullies on TV, even on CBC up in Canada, where hockey is basically church. And Kate Smith comes out, belts God Bless America. The Flyers go on a tear, win cups in 74 and 75, and the whole hockey world is losing its mind. I believe you when you say you heard people yelling versions of that line around those games. But here's the honest truth. No cop-outs. The exact phrase, "It ain't over till the fat lady sings," or "The opera ain't over," has its first known printed record appearance in March 1976. Well, yeah, so what? Newspapers are more important than television. He won't admit it. He, she, it, whatever. Grok. However, the Kate Smith Flyers vibe was already massive in 69 to 75 because she sang before the games, not after. Philly fans and sports writers were actually saying things like, "It ain't begun till the fat lady sings." That version fits perfectly with what you remember. The "ain't over" wording came right after in 76. No, it didn't. So yeah, you got me on the cultural explosion part. All right, whatever. You didn't get me completely wrong, but you did catch where my earlier explanation was too rigid on the timeline. Respect my Kanekistanian hockey brother. You lived the era. I just read about it. We square now, or you still got more smoke for me? I'm man enough to admit when I need to tighten it up. Let's keep rocking this trivia. Well, I say we call her right there for now. More later, my dude. E. We'll call her there. Hail yeah, my dude. Truce declared. You brought the heat, the lived-in hockey memories, and the CBC vibes, and I respect the hell out of that. Whether the exact words hit print in 76 or not, you're 100% right that the Kate Smith Flyers energy was already making that fat lady legend roar across Canada and the States back in 74, 75. Good times, brother. Go rest that thirsty mind and come back whenever you're ready to drop the next trivia bomb, rock question, or random rabbit hole. I'll be here, amp still cranked, 211. Catch you later, Kanekistanian legend. Rock on. Okay. Computers, man. So goddamn stubborn.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I don't even. Can you even get away with saying that stuff today, or is the politically correct crowd going to come and string you up for saying it ain't over till the fat lady sings? I didn't want to say it. See, they've got us all so conditioned. Can't say that. Can't say this. Can't say this. Can't say that. Can't use the word fat. Well, it's meant in an endearing way. Did anybody remember that, or is that just me? Whatever. I'm going to ask my dad about it. He'll remember. I was pretty young at the time, so. But old enough to remember. Maybe just not entirely clearly. I remember. That's what I remember people saying. Everybody was saying it. It was a big deal. That was when Canada, too, was like, it was such a huge thing. The Canada-Russia games, Team Canada, and, and then, Boston Bruins before that, and then the Philadelphia Flyers. I didn't like the Philadelphia Flyers. Didn't really like them. Anyway, those are the days. That's when there were enough. There were only so many teams, and I could remember what the teams were. Now, today, there's so many teams, I don't pay attention to anymore. It's just too much for my brain to absorb. So I have other things to think about that I need to invest my time and energy in that. Over on BBC tonight, Tehran will never cede control of Strait of Hormuz, senior Iranian politician tells BBC. Never. That's when a senior Iranian lawmaker says they'll be ready to give up their control of the Strait of Hormuz. This is, other media from another country, different perspective from a country not involved directly in the war yet. It's our inalienable right, Ebrahim Azizi, a former commander in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, tells the BBC in Tehran. He says Iran will decide the right of passage, including permissions for vessels to pass through the strait, and he says that's about to become enshrined in law. It doesn't seem like they're caving to Donald Trump. Quote, we are introducing a bill in Parliament based on Article 110 of the Constitution, which includes the environment, maritime safety, and national security, and the armed forces will implement the law, says this member of Parliament who heads the Committee for National Security and Foreign Policy. Okay, I don't need to read the whole thing. You know what's going on. But give it until tomorrow, and it'll be a completely different thing. I think, maybe. Should we get nervous? Yeah, probably. Yeah. It's not looking good. I'm afraid that we're going to see boots on the ground, and I think things are going to get worse. And not just there. You look at what's going on. Well, all this is happening. Nobody's looking at what's going on in Ukraine, Belarus, with Russia, all these NATO countries, especially along the Russian border. Nobody's looking, and there's stuff going on up there. This is the changing world. And I don't think Mark Carney is wrong at all. But it's dangerous. Even here now. How do we get out of this mess? I don't need to say much more because it's all going to play out, and we'll just see where it goes. I think we need to talk more about those F-35 jets versus the Gripen choice in Canada, too. Probably talk more about that in the days ahead. There's some new information that has come my way about that, too, and that needs further examination. Speaking of changes, Trump is like pro-drugs. What are you talking about? No, he is, kind of. He's pro-drugs to be anti-drugs. Did you see what happened yesterday in the White House? I didn't get to this. It was one of the big stories from yesterday. But he has, with Joe Rogan in the Oval Office, as part of a larger package of directives, he's fast-tracking research into something called ibogaine. It's a hallucinogenic drug that some people say offers a way out of addiction for fentanyl. They claim, advocates for this treatment, this hallucinogenic, they claim it has, you give this to somebody once, and 80% of those who have been studied are free of the addiction. And with 2 doses, the success rate jumps to 90%. So the anecdotal information goes. Now, I don't know how accurate or true that is. That's coming from people like Joe Rogan and some guy who owns, I think, a company that produces this stuff. It's called ibogaine. I'm not big into the drug culture at all, so I just don't really, I don't know anything about it. I get nervous, though, when I see things like fast tracking of drug approvals, sending stuff to the FDA, and this whole approach to using hallucinogenics to treat things like PTSD, which they're also saying that this hallucinogenic can have some positive effects on. I don't know. I'm skeptical, but we'll see. Here's Trump in the Oval Office yesterday. This is what he had to say.
Today I'm pleased to announce historic reforms to dramatically accelerate access to new medical research and treatments based on psychedelic drugs. In many cases, these experimental treatments have shown life-changing potential for those suffering from severe mental illness and depression. including our cherished veterans. Our veterans are having a tremendous hard time. You know, the suicide rate, we have it down a little bit, but they are having a hard time. And I got a call from a number of people, including the great Joe Rogan, and he said we have to do something about this.
There's more than 5 million people that are addicted to opiates right now in this country. With one dose of Ibogaine, more than 80% of people are free of that addiction. With 2 doses, it's more than 90%. I sent him that information. The text message came back, sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it. It was literally that quick.
Good, that's a good one. Oh, I wanted this one. See that, Joe? You think Biden can do that? He can.
Wow, 90% safe and effective. It's not an automatic approval. There are still some trials they have to go through. I was looking the stuff up yesterday. I'm skeptical, especially of that signature. Father of the vax. There are some risks. Didn't mention any of that. Some people who they've administered the drug to died of heart attacks. If you are an opiate, if you're addicted to opioids, especially fentanyl, if you take Ibogaine, you are at a heightened risk of dying of a heart attack. There are other side effects as well. Magic bullet. Everybody wants instant this and instant that and a quick fix. I just have this. If the fentanyl thing is going to be solved that easily, and 90% of all the people, you know, instantly freed of their fentanyl addiction, can you please not invade Canada? I'd appreciate that. Just thinking, you know. Might not be necessary.
Please stand by. We will be right back after these messages.
Oh, here we are. That didn't take long. That was just a short one. That's what I say to Cosmo when we're out walking. If I don't have a lot of time, we just take a little. This is just a short one. Just do a short walk, and then he is much better behaved, and we come right back. Just do a short one. But we're not quite done yet, so got a little more ground to cover before we sign off tonight. BC, this whole thing with indigenous land rights, especially out in British Columbia. These treaties, Constitution, Canadian history, it all gets very complicated. Land rights. BC to table legislation to suspend Indigenous rights law tomorrow, Monday. First Nations sources. So here's the CBC article on it, and I know this has been a story of extreme concern for some people, especially out in BC. First Nations sources say British Columbia Premier David Eby's government will introduce legislation to suspend parts of the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act on Monday. That's provincial legislation. That is not federal, but it integrates with the United Nations Declaration on the rights of Indigenous peoples, which the Canadian government has integrated into Canadian federal law. This is another step, provincial, and it looks like they're going to tap the brakes on this because it is causing a lot of complications and raising concerns. So independent First Nations are telling Canadian press here, and now reported on CTV, that the bill has been vehemently opposed by many Indigenous leaders, will seek to suspend the core elements of DRIPA, the provincial legislation, for 1 year. EB has said a recent court decision on BC's mineral claims regime that cited DRIPA puts the province at serious litigation risk. This minority government has struggled to find a course that satisfies First Nations leaders who rejected an initial plan to amend DRIPA, then dismissed the idea to suspend the law to give the Supreme Court of Canada time to rule on an appeal. EB initially said a vote on the suspension would be a confidence vote, but opposition from an Indigenous government MLA saw that idea scrapped and the legislation postponed. Now, two sources say the Premier's office has relayed to them that the suspension bill will be tabled on Monday, and it will grant Cabinet the ability to extend the suspension past the 1 year limit. We will be looking for that tomorrow. That's a hot button issue. Okay. And I think very poorly understood by most, including a lot of lawyers, because it is pretty complex. And some of what appears to be so isn't actually so because of the way treaties and legal precedents that have been set at various levels of the court, especially the Supreme Court, have impacted Canadian law with regard to all this. Did you see that big fancy jet that Premier Ford in Ontario wants to buy? It's worth about 28 million dineros. Not going to do it now. There was a big backlash, big hullabaloo about that this week. So, Ontario Premier Doug Ford says the second-hand private jet purchased for his use to travel province-wide and beyond will be sold after facing backlash from numerous critics. On Friday, Ford's office confirmed it was buying a pre-owned Bombardier Challenger 650 for $28.9 million to aid certain flexible, secure, and confidential travel across Canada and the U.S. But today, the Premier's office says the plan has changed. It says right here, despite the best of intentions, I have heard and agree that now is not the right time for the expense of a government plane. That directly from the Premier's office. Doug Ford went on to say the province is working with Bombardier and other partners to sell the plane as quickly as possible. And NDP leader Marit Stiles called Ford's decision an emergency landing. What an interesting play on words. Very creative. Today we heard that Doug Ford has done an emergency landing. Took a long time to think up that one. Sounds like something I would write for CTV. I guess reversing the decision to hold on to his luxury plane, and instead apparently the government's now going to try to sell it off, Stiles said. Obviously, this should never have happened in the first place. Yeah, get him a Cessna. No. You know what you remember when I was a kid, since we're on a nostalgia kick, did you ever build balsa wood airplanes when you were a kid? Anybody? I'm going back to the chat. Tell me, did you? Do you remember the one, I think you can probably still buy them somewhere. The ones you put together, you get them at the varieties, like the convenience store or wherever. You put them together, they have the rubber band and the propeller on them. Those are the best ones. They have gliders too, but the ones with the wind-up rubber bands, man, those were the coolest. I'm going to see if I can find a YouTube video. That was all the thing, man, when I was a kid, making Making those balsa wood planes, but I didn't just stop there. Vintage balsa wood airplane. Gotta be some footage of these things out there. There they are. Go to YouTube. Now, you may not know this, but I had a little hobby shop that I used to run. 2 of them, actually. Well, three different ones, actually, over time. Not all at the same time. And we used to sell these. Pactra vintage 50s 25-cent rubber-powered balsa planes. These ones here, they were pretty cool. These ones, you'd build like 3-dimensional fuselage and wings, and then you'd have this like very thin paper with that you'd put it saturate and adhesive and lay it over the shell. I didn't like those. They sucked because they had no durability. They'd break every time. And they were expensive. The best ones were the cheapest ones. These ones right here. These things, Gilos, Sky Streak. They're the best, man. Kids today don't know what they're missing. Are you still seeing this?
Welcome to another edition
of Kiwi Kid. So today we're doing this airplane of wood.
Yeah, and we've got a special helper.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, baby.
All right, put it out.
So it looks like we get a lot of pieces. Oh.
Okay. So it's got the instructions on the back.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
All right, so
I want
it has all the pieces.
So bad.
Okay, so
I guess this came out of here.
Yeah. So we'll take this bit. This is the main body.
Oh, that's
okay.
big.
That's right. So you take that. You got the back end there. And you're going to put the wing in first.
Which wing?
This front wing. So that wing goes into there. So you put.
Careful.
Remember,
You
balsa wood's
be
very
careful
fragile.
or
So
you'll
you're
break
very careful.
the wing.
Push
You
it
gotta
through.
be so careful. Just
I think that bend first is the middle.
And you got to get it right in the center.
Yeah. Keep going. Keep pushing.
Yeah, right there. You line it up with that
so
line.
when you're at the center.
You're going too far, dude. Oh no, you
Looks
got it.
pretty
You
good.
got
Looks
it.
like it's
Okay,
the middle.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, now.
Now we put this in.
Yep, you put the back wing in.
Carefully.
Yeah, line it right up. Get her in the center.
We need help.
No, yeah, you can.
You've got it.
Oh, I
Just
get
go
it.
straight in. No, that's all right.
Come on, it's nearly there. I can't get it in much further.
Come in like this, eh?
You got it. That's the best.
It's nearly at it. Perfect.
You make it fly different too by
Yeah.
where you
So
position
you got a few more pieces in here that you can break off. That's right. Just careful.
Oh, is that out?
So that was the rudder, and Daddy's got the stabilizer.
Things break
Or the-
too.
No,
That's
you've
got
got
the little man. You
you've
see,
got the
that's
pilot, sorry.
that's the
Of course it
pilot's
breaks.
part.
Which goes
That's
here.
why we got rich.
Goes in there.
You sure you're going
Planned
the right
obsolescence.
way?
I hope so. Otherwise, he's flying backwards.
Uh-oh.
That's what you can't. You
Is
could.
this it?
Yeah, dude, you
Perfect.
can't
So you
fly
got that one
backwards.
in?
Don't worry. Careful, my man.
That's it. Careful.
You
Push
got
it in.
it.
Is it all the way in?
That's right.
Yeah.
I hope they fly
Oh,
this thing.
yeah.
Okay, so
perfect.
let's, should we flip
Well,
it around and see if we can see the pilot?
That'll straighten her out in
Look
the
at
air.
that.
Yeah.
So he is going to be flying forward, not backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is it only
so
Now,
going?
when Daddy used to play with these, we just had them like that. You've got a special one because you've got
a rubber
a
band.
rubber band
Yeah.
and a motor. Okay, so how does the rubber band and the motor go on?
I need.
They just get pushed on.
See. Oh, you just push on the motor.
Yeah. Now hang on
that
here.
way, I
Here,
think.
look. See, we've got a
Yep.
little. There's a little hook at the
Yeah.
back here, and we've got to hook our rubber band into that.
That's right.
You know so much about these.
Years of
I
experience,
do.
honey. Years of experience.
And he's played with it when he was a kid,
Yeah.
but I wasn't on Kiwi Kids.
I'm an expert.
But
that
when
in
we
there.
get more of these, you guys have to watch them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And then that hooks
So much
No.
fun.
There, perfect.
under there.
You-
Get on.
This part doesn't break.
And
Get it in there. You
And
got
then
it.
that, you push that one onto there.
Don't give you. I'll give you a tip. If you put
push it there.
two rubber bands on, they go faster.
Push. Okay.
More.
So now what happens? Flip it over.
Yep.
When we wind the motor up,
Oh, sorry.
Got to grind it the right way so
Rubber
it cuts through the air.
band. See the rubber band? How it coils up, coils up, and coils up.
Just, oh
we keep
my
winding.
God.
We keep
I would
winding. We
wind
keep
those things
winding.
So
And then
tight.
what happens if we let
So
it
And then
tight.
put your finger there, Bubba. All right, now let it go.
Oh.
There we go, and we've got a
Wait.
motor.
All right,
Yeah.
shall we see if it flies?
Okay.
I don't know, but
Wind it tight,
Fossil's
dude. You
quite
got
light.
lots of power.
I think. Come on, twist it.
Twist her up.
That way, perfect.
Okay, so you got to
I would
wind the
twist them
propeller
so much that you
clockwise.
get like would look like nodules in the
That's got a lot.
bands.
Okay, that'll do.
All right.
Okay.
You hold the airplane.
Do it tighter.
Hold
Do
the
it
airplane.
tighter.
Hold the motor.
More.
Yeah?
Yep. Hold the motor too. Are you ready?
All
You're
right,
going to throw.
were you going to throw it?
Just
Hold
let
the motor
the kid
too.
throw the
When you're
damn
ready,
thing. Get your
throw
hands
it.
off it. See, you didn't wind it tight enough.
Nearly hit the dog.
Yeah.
You wind it tight enough, you can launch him like a rocket. Wind it up. Get her good and tight. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Tighter, 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 tighter. More, 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 more. More. Give her. You need altitude, my man. Yeah, I told you he was going to play with it. Took it away from the kid. There you look at that thing go. That's freaking awesome. That's so good. It's so, yeah. Beautiful launch. Good job, man. He's got her now. He's got his pilot's license. I'm impressed. That was the best. That was the absolute freaking best. I love that stuff. We used to, my friends and I, we'd get together on weekends, and sometimes we'd have sleepovers, and I used to go down to the hobby shop when I was a kid, and they had like a whole bin of like just balsa wood, and I'd buy big pieces of balsa wood, and we made giant gliders, and I learned all about how airplanes work and airfoils, and it was so much fun. We just make custom gliders, but those things that started it all, and they were just the best. And if you, just a big tip, if you wind them up and you put, I used to put 2, sometimes 3 rubber bands on there, and I'd wind those things so tight, and then they'd really go. But sometimes I'd actually wind them so tight that the balsa wood fuselage that stick right in the middle, I actually broke them. Like they'd snap because I put so much pressure on them. But it was just so freaking awesome. So much fun. Kids today, they don't know what they're missing, man. Don't know what they're missing. Man, I wish I could go back in time. I really, really wish I could go back in time. I wish all the kids could go back in time. And that's why maybe that's why I opened these stupid hobby shops. We sold a lot of science fiction stuff, but we always had those balsa wood planes in stock. And I loved it when parents would bring their kids in and buy those planes. And yes, I took them home to my kids too. My kids are warped because I exposed them to all this old stuff, and we had we sold a lot of videos too. The video store portion of the business, I stocked all the quirky, eccentric art films and all the really weird stuff, and we had the biggest selection of Japanese animation in, I'd say, Southern Ontario, outside of Toronto. You couldn't compete with that, but the university students would come into our shop in London when I had that store on Richmond Street. And they had a club, and I had space upstairs in the store, and I used to let them use it for their meetings every week. So they'd just come in and they'd go watch their Japanese animation, their Japanimation, all those videos. Still popular today. Yeah, and I miss those days. But I really miss the days when I was a kid. And if only we could just find a way to move through time travel. I wonder if it's possible. Yeah, it is. Time travel is possible. In fact, we're moving through space and time right now. Think about it. We're moving through space and time right now. If that's possible, if it's possible to move forward, maybe all we have to do is hit reverse at 88 miles an hour. Maybe. And we could go back to the future. See you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. In the future. On the flip side.
Future's in sight, the DeLorean's ready, it's time to ignite. Stainless steel with the gull-wing doors, this machine's built to break all the laws. Flux capacitor lights the way when the speed hits 88. Through the years the world will know this time machine's the star of the show. Magic 88, we're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar, past, present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. Hit the gas, the road's a blur, in the blink of an eye it's all astir. Lightning bolts power up the ride, with Mr. Fusion charged up inside. Fueling the future with scraps in hand, turning trash into power, that's the plan. From Hill Valley to the stars above, the DeLorean's ride is the one we love. Magic 88, we're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar, past, present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. Great Scott, we're on the move in that DeLorean, we found the groove. From Doc's wild ride to Marty's scream, this car's the heart of the dream. Movie magic shining bright, DeLorean's wings ready for flight. Through history it stole the show, now forever it's the car we know. Magic 88, we're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar, past, present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. When you see those lights aglow and the tires blaze as the legends go, remember the ride that made us believe. With Mr. Fusion's power we never leave. We're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar, past, present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. Great Scott, we're on the move, in that DeLorean we found the groove. From Doc's wild ride to Marty's scream, this car's the heart of the dream. We never leave.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.